Welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. I love days when I get to have on my podcast my best friends. That's just like going to the candy store for me. Instead of like people that I know they have so much to contribute, but I don't really know them. And I know this woman has so much to contribute because I know her. Welcome to my podcast of Crafting a Meaningful Life, one of the best women of that I know. Puli, welcome, Pualei Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. I love you.
Oh. Okay, guests, my listeners, just take a look. Now, is this not the most beautiful woman you've ever seen? You're so beautiful, Puli. And but the thing is, I've never met anyone who is as beautiful, as gracious, who can take beautiful things on Instagram, because your business is, helping women craft their new lives and shift into who they are. And you take these little, what do they call those? The reels. And you're just like, whoa, look what you can do with this. And look how this makes your body look. Whoa. And I'm just like, you look like someone who would be like, I'm all that. But I know you, and that's not who you are inside. So you know how to show women how to create that. But you have probably one of the most humble and sincere souls I've ever met. That's you.
That's a huge compliment. And
it's meant to be.
Thank you. I really thank you. I received that and I'm grateful. Thank you. That's a huge compliment. And I want to say, Mary, that I do know that I am all that. I do have that self-worth.
Yeah. I know you know that. And that is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about how you can carry that inner confidence of who you are. And that inner confidence, when you carry yourself like that with you, not with everyone we see out there, but with you, radiates from the fact that you don't have anything to prove. You no longer fear that you're not enough. You know that you love yourself. And so you're able to do and be all of that without it coming from a place of need. Like, I'm afraid I'm not enough, so I have to look this way. It's such a difference. So let's take people back. I want people to come back to the beginning. So what I know about you is that you married fairly young and you weren't always sure of yourself. You had a difficult marriage, and it's taken a long time to get to this point. So walk us through that first part of your life.
Yeah. And, I grew up in Hawaii on the island of Oahu and Laie. Hawaii, very small, little, beautiful town. So grateful for where I grew up and my upbringing. And I just always had this love for fashion, and I was drawn to it and drawn to beauty, and had an interest in it from when I was very young. My mother was an amazing seamstress, and she sewed. I loved to look at pictures of her and outfits that she had sewn, and I just always loved fashion. And I would save up my babysitting money from 10 years old, and I would go to the grocery store to buy Vogue magazine or Elle magazine, And then there were really rarely any models who looked anything like me. And so I did not feel that I was the standard of beauty or that I was beautiful, growing up. And even not until, probably not until after my second divorce, at 42, that I really began to grow into more of seeing my true intrinsic beauty and knowing that. And so, yeah, it's been a very long one truly.
I think that's such a big part. I want to just stop on for just a minute, Puli, is this idea that it is a process. If we are open to it, and if we are looking and wanting to step into our true self, that it's a process, and actually it's a sure process. You will find that point if you're looking. So I want to ask you, at what point in your life then, because I certainly can remember thinking that I was the ugly duckling in my family. My older brother and older sister were everything and all that, and I was, of course, the ugly duckling. And just believing that and trying to come up with all these coping mechanisms to cover up my fears and not allowing myself to open up and then step into who I truly am. So at what point did you feel that you just stopped hiding and covering up who you truly are and stepped in to being who you truly are?
Yeah, it was a process. I think I get a little emotional about it because I remember it makes me sad for how I treated myself when I was young, and how I spoke to myself and how I viewed myself and just how I treated myself. And I get emotional as well because I think about all the other young women. I think of my past self and all the young women who are there now, and all the women, and on a continual basis, who beat themselves up and who treat themselves badly. And so really it started with the process of doing the internal work to get to know myself and to build a deep relationship with myself and to stop avoiding that and working more and more to become whole and who I am. And it's not easy work. It's and it's a process. There's so many layers. And I think the biggest part for me was in the beginning, realizing that I needed to take full radical accountability for my life and for my choices. And that was where my power was. And owning my life and where I was at and my role in that, the decisions I had made in my life up to that point. And I say up to that point, I'm speaking about, I feel like the pivotal point in my life, which was my second divorce. And, going through that process, my first year in business, and how hugely grateful I am for that experience and for that time. It was enormously difficult.
So I love the first thing you talked about, because I was going to ask you as my very first question, so what is the first step into stepping into this knowing you? And then you answered it. You said the first step is to step into accountability. And I couldn't agree with you more, Puli. Because when you are accountable, you are no longer what? A victim. And as long as we live our lives from the position of, I'm a victim of this or I'm a victim of that, there is no movement, no growth. That was such a beautiful thing to say and to start. And if I think if both of us could wish any one thing for the women that are listening and the men, this applies to you too, men, so you don't get out of this, out of the men too, that if we could have one, it's not a wish. I don't believe necessarily in wishes. Let's see. If we could have one point we want to make, that the moment we're afraid to take accountability ourselves because we fear the consequences. Just like when you were little and you did something wrong and your mom said, "Who did this?" I don't know. And we would lie about it because we were afraid of the consequences.
We're afraid also, too, that we're not enough.
Absolutely. And women who are listening, Puli, who think they take accountability but may not be, how do you recognize? How do you come to know, are you being accountable or are you playing as a victim? How do you know?
Yeah, it's hard work, and it's so interesting because anything that you want to learn and deepen in, you can. It's up to you. You get to choose. And so even for me, thank you for asking me that, because that's such a beautiful question. I won't go into detail, but for me, there was one area in my life where I completely felt like I had forgiven. I was moving forward. I pride myself on not being a victim and not being a martyrdom, which I feel martyr is even worse energy than victim.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting because there was this area in my life, the last 4 years, I didn't realize I was in martyr in two areas very deeply. And I didn't see it. I was blind to it. And what helped me to finally see that is that I do the work. I do seek. I listen to books continually. I listen to podcasts. I listen to your podcast religiously. I have conversation. I am surrounded with very high frequency, very beautiful women who do the work. And also friends who are close who will call me out, that I can trust. And also friends who I can go to, who I can say, hey, this is kind of what's going on. Tell me what you see. Tell me my blind spots.
So you seek that out from...
Yes, I seek it out from people I intentionally trust, who I know will not project, who have done their work, who I know I can trust to confide in, to show me my shadow. Show me.
I think that is incredible, Puli, because oftentimes if we live in a victim world or martyr world, we surround ourselves with other people who play victim and play martyr because it helps us feel comfortable. If you hang out with just people who are accountable and call you on it, then you're uncomfortable. But the moment that we do what you did and desire to step into accountability, we realize the very best thing we can do for ourselves is to surround ourselves with other people who live in that world or who are on the path.
Yeah, and also, to make a point about accountability, is that a lot of times we're high-achieving women, high-achieving people, and we have high expectations for ourselves. We set ideals, and we fail to take a full accountability of all that we are. So much of being enough begins with gratitude and an accountability and recognition of all that we are. So if we're going to take accountability for the self-examination and in the ways that we need to improve, we need to take full accountability for all that we are as well, and all of the things that we are doing beautifully and correctly and right in our lives. So taking accountability, and I teach women this, taking accountability, take a full accountability of who you are fully, and work from there, because we have to start from where we are. We'll never turn into someone that we love by continuing to hit ourselves.
Or pretend.
Yeah. And so we have to start from where we are and take the full accountability and work from there.
So beautiful, Puli. Yeah, I think that we often talk about stepping into accountability on things that are drawing us down. And that if we're accountable for them, of course, the good news is that we can change them. If we're not accountable, if we're just a victim, you can't change a dang thing. And you're going to stay stuck there. So I'm just excited when I find an opportunity to be accountable. Huh? Because that means I can change it.
Yeah, we recognize something, and it's
Yeah.
well, it's so beautiful because you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe.
Yeah.
For me, those two things that and the last year being in this were huge for me, and such a huge weight lifted. I didn't even see, and I'm so grateful because it just has been so freeing, and yeah, and it just
It is a gift.
it's a gift, and
It's such a gift of freedom. Yeah.
yeah, and it happened because I was trying to deepen my understanding of forgiveness and ho'oponopono, and what does that really mean? That I was able to see that.
You used that word, and I want to tell people what that is before we go any farther. This is a beautiful Hawaiian ceremony of forgiveness. And the first time I experienced it, I was like, wow, that's pretty great. But the second time when I experienced this ceremony, I was like, oh, this has nothing to do with what I thought it had to do with. Not about me forgiving others. It's about forgiving me for believing that I was less than, forgiving me for being in a situation where I allowed myself to be treated less than, and to forgive myself for that kind of a situation, just like you in your marriage, that I was able to say, I stayed there, but I don't need to beat myself up that I stayed. I can forgive myself and I can move on. It's another piece of accountability to forgive. I love that. You mentioned about one of the biggest pieces of this being not only taking accountability for the things that we've been messing up on, but for the beautiful things that are in our lives. What were some of the first things that you began to see and to recognize?
Yeah, so it was really peeling away at the layers to get to my true self, my true identity. So all of my conditioning, all of my limiting beliefs, examining all of that, everything that I was raised with, everything that I had been taught growing up, and just really getting truly who am I, and deepening my relationship with God. I really turned to God going through all of my troubles in life, and have just really am so grateful for that knowledge, and for my relationship with God, my creator. And for everyone it's different, higher power or source. For me it's God. And really truly seeking to know how to become who I needed to become, and it came from that difficult circumstance of the second divorce, before I really was brought to that place of like, okay, I need to figure this out. And I'm so grateful because he really started with, God initially led me to abundance, and to deepening abundance, and just seeing it within myself first, and then love. And it was, so first it was abundance and then love. And I think the reason for that was because God needed me to move out of scarcity at a very scary time, and also to be able to see the abundance within myself, to be able to recognize my purpose and dharma and all that I am. I needed to be able to recognize who I am and recognize my worth, and do that work to see that and to know that. And then from there, it was love. And I understood it was increasing my capacities then to love God and to love myself and to love others. And so that is what I focused on, and I continue to focus on. And I feel like so much of who we are is our intention. I think when Christ speaks to the pure heart, I think that's what he's speaking to, is intention. And because intention is the fuel for everything that we do. And it creates the resonance to what we do. And the energy and vibration.
Yeah. There's definitely a vibration shift and difference depending on what your intention is. If your intention is to use that dark energy of having somebody else feel less than so that you can feel more than, that's such low vibration energy, and in the end never works.
Never works, but we've all been there. I've done that.
But we've all been there.
All done.
Yeah.
I've done that. You've done that. We and the thing is, unless we're willing to admit that, look at that in ourselves, we won't be able to correct that. We won't ever truly get to true abundance and self-love and self-worth. We have to be willing to look at those sides and admit to it, and take accountability and work on it.
We keep coming back to that word freedom. And that's something that, can you imagine living a life, if those of you are listening, a life where you never have to look down on someone else so that you can be more than.
So you can feel whole, or you can feel good.
Yeah. And to see everyone as equals. And so all of these principles, Puli, you and I have talked so many times about whether you call the higher powers in our life God, or whether you call them the Great Spirit, or whether you call them the universe, or the source of all knowledge. The word is not as important as that we acknowledge that there is a greater being or beings out there that have our best interest at heart, always, even in the middle of struggle.
And that universe loves us, that the universe is our best friend, and that it really is just responding to what we tell it about ourselves.
Puli, you had also one thing, believe it or not, we're going to be out of time before you and I could talk for hours.
I know.
But you talked about, I want to talk about actually three things, but several times you've mentioned the phrase of abundance and scarcity. And so I would like you to define to our listeners how you see that. What is scarcity, and how to know if you're living in that, and what is abundance?
Yeah, so, and you can be moving in and out of abundance and scarcity all the time and in different areas of your life. And so it's recognizing that. So I want to say that first. So abundance for me is understanding that there is no lack of anything in the world, that I create. I'm the creator, and I'm a creator, and I'm creating for the world. And so I'm not taking ever. I'm creating more. And scarcity, you believe there's a finite amount of whatever, a finite amount of beauty, a finite amount of wealth. And there just isn't. And so, but you'll find, that you'll move into scarcity and abundance in different areas of your life. And it's natural human nature. It's how we've been conditioned. And a lot of what I discovered for myself when I went, on my journey to doing this work, was that a lot of what I've been conditioned to live is in fear. And which is a lie. We've been conditioned to live a lie. And that really, we've been conditioned to prepare for the worst, rather than to know that everything will work out, and everything is working out in our best interest. And because, like you said, there is a higher power, higher source that is there for our highest good, and that loves us unconditionally and deeply. And blindly. And so we have nothing to, and so, yeah, for me, that's abundance.
I know about, you mentioned about flowing in and out of it, that there are, I'm sure, people in this world who have refined their lives to the point where they never move over to scarcity and they live 100% in abundance. That's not me. It's my focus, it's my goal. And most of the time I'm there, but sometimes I'm listening to the news on TV or a stupid commercial that's trying to instill fear in me. Commercials are designed to instill fear. And that if you buy their product, all of that will go away. And if you're less than, if you buy their product, suddenly you're more than. That's what it's meant to do. Okay, so I'm listening to a commercial, and it's talking about life insurance and planning for your retired life, like mine. And they'll make a statement like this. They'll say something like, whatever you retire with, you need 40% more than that to make it to the end of your life because of inflation. I'm like, I'm not making 40% on my money that I have invested. I'm lucky if I'm making 10. So if I thought I had enough money to make it to 100, in reality, I'm probably going to run out of money at 82 and be living in a nursing home funded by the state. Okay, this sounds horrible. And I get caught up in that fear of I'm not going to have enough money, and I start thinking about it and fretting about it. And so I shift into scarcity mode. Like, how can I get more? Or I don't trust that someone will be there to take care of me. Maybe I need to go back to work. Maybe I could work at Walmart. I think I could stand up on my feet for 8 hours a day at the cash register. I mean, what? Seriously, Mary. And then I'll just take a breath, because I'll feel those old fears that I thought I'd let go of come back. And you take those breaths and you just let that go. And you settle into love. And the companion to love is abundance. And we just have to believe that the principles we've based our life on are true. And that if I'm living in abundance, there will always be enough. Do you ever have people ask you, well, what about the starving children in Africa? They don't have abundance. And I'm, okay, that's absolutely true. They don't. And they are starving. But it's only because of those who have fear and need to have more are taking more than their share and hoarding it in scarcity. We have more than enough resources on this planet to give everyone fresh water, to feed this planet. We have more than enough resources to see that everyone has housing. The only reason they don't is out of their own fear and crap that they're trying to work through.
Yeah, we have so much, there's so much food, and there is no reason, you're exactly right, that anyone should have to go hungry in this world. And so, yeah, it's, for me, I hope that my wish is for all women to feel this way. I love to be around women who are confident, who love themselves. It's so uplifting, it's inspiring, and it is hard work. And to truly know it, and to know authentically, and to be able to live as who you are. And I've had to do those self-checks myself, and like you said, resist from going into fear, into being comfortable. And, for example, I was Botox, everyone loves Botox, and I was able to receive Botox, for a number of 4 to 5 years. So when I started out very conservatively, and when that um, when that was coming to an end, I thought, okay, do I want to find somewhere else to go? Do I want to stick this out somewhere else? It was set up as a trade, which was so nice for me. And I went back and forth, and I thought, no, I want to see what's here for me. I want to see if this is uncomfortable for me. How can I teach about beauty. So let's see what's here for me with this. And I was, I did let myself go into fear for a little bit. I didn't avoid that. I went through that, let myself examine that and look at that for myself. But then I realized, no, like, this is an opportunity for me to get uncomfortable, to build greater confidence, to build greater internal intrinsic beauty for myself, to stop sourcing externally. And so I'm so grateful for that opportunity, and then also, like you talked about, you're so complimentary about my posts on Instagram and, my videos. And that does take a lot of confidence. And I did have to look at that. Okay, am I posting for attention? And how much am I posting for attention? How much am I sharing for attention? Or am I doing it truly to add value, to help people create different outfits, to, you know what I mean? Or am I doing it because I want to look a certain way to certain people, And so really doing that internal work, because we all have ego. We all have ego. And so, is it true internal self-reference, or is it object referral? As Deepak Chopra that, in terms of who we are, and so I'm really doing that work as well.
Well, because I know you, I know that it's not because you want everybody to say, look all that I am. I'm all that. Bang, bang. I know you, so I know that's not what's happening. But there's something about your videos, the energy about them, Puli, is completely different. Sometimes I see people doing that and I'm just like, click, buzz, cut that, move on. That's not yours. When I come across yours, I watch them. I watch them to the end, because you radiate this beautiful woman who is so confident, and you want to share this gift with others. That's what you're doing it for. It comes across, girl. You're here to help people discover their true inner beauty. As we conclude today, I want everyone to know who Puli is. Puli, tell us about the shop you have and the services that you offer. And that's how you and I got connected.
Yeah. Well, so I know I'm so grateful, because we are just, I get to have you in my life all the time, and even when besties, and I'm so grateful. I love you. So my boutique is Eden K, and it is in Pleasant Grove. And I have a size neutral boutique. So there is no sizing in my store. You have to try every piece on. You are interested in buying.
I noticed that the first time I came, I'm like, looking for the mediums. Oh, let's see. I'll try this one. You just seem to know what to hand to me in the dressing room every single time.
Yeah. So, there's a couple reasons for this, and it's just because tags and sizing on tags mean nothing, and they do nothing to serve the form of the female body. We are fluid, and there's nothing boxed or numerical about our shape or how we look. And so that's why there's no sizing in the store. And then I am also a personal fashion stylist and image consultant. So I offer personal styling services for women, and I love that. And I offer that one-on-one. And then I also offer image consulting and coaching with purpose and dharma. So it's not about curating an image for you. It's about pulling out your true energetic essence and amplifying that. So, and helping you to emanate that and embody that for the world through dress and appearance, but more so from the inside out. So, and I love to help women with confidence, and host a few events at my space each year, and I be nonprofits, but I have a few events each year that I would love more volunteers for if you have time. And one of them's coming up at the end of August. It's a back to school day for the foster kids in Utah. So they will to come and pick out a brand new back to school outfit for the first day of school. So that's coming up in August. So get in touch with me if you're interested in volunteering or helping or donating for that event. It's a really beautiful, beautiful event. So you just need to make sure I come show up for that for sure.
Well, when it gets a little bit closer, I'll do a shout out on social media for you because I have a lot of people, because I post a lot about this kind of work in the community, and a lot of women are reaching out to saying, how can I become involved with this? Or I want to do more of that, or where could I find and blah. And we're abundant with people who want to help and support. And you do so much with the foster children. Of course, the one that I help with is the domestic violence women that you work with every year. I just can't say enough about the woman that you are. And I don't even want to say the woman that you've become, because it's who you always have been. But it's the woman, I'm so excited about the woman that you've allowed yourself to be. Who you always were, but you've now allowed yourself to see her and love her and embrace her. And now you're sharing that gift with others. On the end of this podcast, you'll see links to Puli's shop and perhaps her Instagram account so you can follow her and get to know a little bit about this magnificent woman who I am blessed to have in my life, and who opens herself up and available to so many people who are looking for a hand up in discovering who they are, the beauty of who they are, and loving themselves. It's the greatest gift of all. Thank you, Puli.
Crafting a meaningful life.